to the public. The packet ring binder is located at the podium, and it's that white 3-ring binder. Ms. Kajawa Daniels, if you would please, a roll call.
Councilmember Ryan,
Here.
Councilmember Lawrence Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Graves,
Here.
Councilmember Butler,
Here.
Mayor Wilson.
Here as well. All rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Having said that, we had very, very few questions on the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda, and the chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. That brings us up to item number 7, presentations, proclamations, recognitions, and donations. There are none for this evening. Item number 8, public hearings. 8A, resolution certifying special assessments for administrative fine and citations. For council members, you have updated lists that should have been at your dais at the beginning of the meeting. And Mr. Bogany, if you would, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, the first item relates to resolution certifying special assessments for administrative fines and citations, and I believe we'll have a presentation from Mr. Anderson.
Ooh,
Okay.
Mr. Anderson, you're a busy person tonight.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I think it's the other one. This is
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
That's right.
Let's try this again. Are we sure?
Mine's the top one there.
Oh, way up there. Okay, very good.
All right, so good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. So we have Minnesota state law allows for certain costs to be and services to be put as a special assessment on person's property taxes. This is for administrative citations. These property owners have received a certified letter regarding the public hearing. The public hearing notice was also put in the August 23rd Sun Post. This would have been after they would have received a notice for a violation and a citation. And then they have an opportunity to appeal to a hearing officer, and then this is another hearing opportunity to appeal the assessment. If the assessments go unpaid by the end of November, they'll roll on to their 2019 property taxes. And like I said, all delinquent abatement accounts were paid. There was a previous one of $12,000, but that was paid this week. So there's no outstanding abatement accounts, only administrative citations for this part. As of today, there was a revised levy list, which is at about 32,000, which is about 5,000 less than it was 2 weeks ago. And it reflects payments made or adjustments. We did receive one emailed appeal at 3 o'clock today, which was in your packet, basically just stating that they are the owner and have sold a contract for deed. And so basically the recommended procedure for the public hearing is to conduct a public hearing, appellant state the basis for their appeal at the front podium. The council may remove any reasonable appeals for the proposed levy and adopt the remaining pending proposed assessments, and continue the public hearing for the reasonable appeals, and staff can provide a report at a future council meeting to review those further.
Mr. Anderson, the one that came in today, will that then be deferred and come up at a future meeting?
That one, it can be, it's up to the council if they would like to defer it or talk about it tonight or approve it, either way. It's up to the council to decide if they want to keep it on. So. All right, that's all I had for my presentation, so I'm open to any questions or. The public hearing will be
In a couple minutes. We have then any Questions for Mr. Bogany or Mr. Anderson? If not, we can consider a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying nay. We're open for public hearing on the administrative fines and citations. If you wish to come forward and address the council, use this podium. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Bruce Pelkey. I live at 3318 50th Avenue North. I was just issued a citation and I came to arbitration, and that I waived this fine if I didn't have an incident. And I'm confused as to why this comes up again then.
Let me ask you this. You're asking to go through the formal process, in which case we defer it. We get a report from staff at the next meeting, and if so, then you should get an answer at that time. Unless you're not contesting it.
Well, I am contesting this.
There you go.
I don't understand what you're saying to me, I guess, then.
Make sure that the city manager and staff have your name and address. The council, the council will defer your billing tonight. Staff will do a report on it, because there's two sides to every story, and when that comes back at the next meeting, I would suggest you should be here as well. In other words, it's,
I did take care of this though, and this seems to be more of your negligence or your city operation than mine. And now you're asking me to come back again? I guess I wonder, you know, I indicated when I came down here last time that you guys, this is a bunch of crap. And I told him I'm getting, you've been harassing me, and I took care of the problem, and now I don't understand now then. This is almost 6 months later, and I still, I think somebody should chastise someone here for, people are busy, and I don't understand, sir, but I'll defer this. I'll have to come back again. I'll be angrier next time, and I think you should all know that, because it's only fair. I have a life too, and this is not what I do.
Mr. Bargany, do we have this address on tonight's list?
I'm not sure, is it on the list? Just Mr. Anderson? The address is, what is the address? 3318 50th Avenue,
Yes, I see it.
It's on for tonight.
levy number 19.
Page, middle of the front page.
Okay,
Okay,
11,
3318 50th
786,
Avenue.
yeah.
I see it as well, $165. So,
It simply means that it is on tonight's agenda, to be considered for assessment. And, staff will take your comments, we'll check the facts, and then it'll come back so the council won't act on it tonight.
And then explain to me why I came to arbitration before. Here in.
You've spoken to the council, you can do that again if you'd like to.
Then why did I come to arbitration in May for this, to get this resolved?
I have no idea.
Okay, I understand. All right,
But we're initiating your request to defer.
yeah, I understand, I
Okay.
appreciate it, but
Very good.
all of a sudden, got stuff to do.
You know how the wheels of government work. You don't get out of the way, you get chewed up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I live at 6138 Colfax Avenue North, and I've received some fines in the past, and I've paid them, so I'm also a little confused as to why I'm here today.
6131?
It's on the second page.
6138
Oh, you
Colfax.
found it already? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to take that as you're contesting what?
I'm contesting. I believe the last, like I say, this guy, well, same thing. This guy is always coming past my house. He's giving us ridiculous fines, and the last fine was because I had a tire off on one of my vehicles. Now, my husband has a lot of vehicles. So there was a tire blown out. So he gave me a ticket for a tire blown out that hadn't even been blown out for 12 hours. And a ticket for $500 at that. And I paid the previous ones before just to make it go away, you know? But this is like, it's ridiculous. I have a mortgage, I have children, I have family. So I don't really know what to do here. I'm just showing up because you guys told me that we had to.
And that's correct. I'm going to take that as you're going to contest any action tonight, and we'll go to the next meeting. Staff will bring a report back, because there's always two sides to the story. And the council will deal with those that are deferred at our next meeting then.
Okay.
But we have to give staff time, enough time to be able to put a report together.
Okay, so I'll just get a court date from him over here? Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So I can go, right? All right. Guys, have a
Yes.
good night.
Say, ma'am, the reason for you to show up tonight is so that you can contest it, but you can do it in writing beforehand as well.
Okay.
So,
Thank you so much.
yes, sir.
How you guys doing? Name is Walter Chapa, 5338 Logan Avenue, Brooklyn Center.
533.
Yeah, 8.
Anybody find it? Oh, I have a page now with me. 5338.
Logan Avenue.
I
I don't see it either.
don't,
Is it a utility bill?
Yeah.
Okay, that hearing has not started yet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
wait for the next one, I guess. Yes, sir.
My name is Tommy Conte, 4207 Lakeside Avenue, apartment 240.
What is the nature of your bill?
It was a citation.
Oh, citation, okay.
It's a couple down from the 50th address.
Okay,
Okay.
Yes,
Please
so,
proceed.
it was for a lapse of license renewal. I did, when I didn't have the notice at the time, I did respond right away, and I did make the payment for that. And
a lot of people watch the live stream.
so I was able to make the payment at the time for the license renewal, and I did all the inspection. Everything was fine. But after then, I was having a personal reasons. That's I was not having my mail was forwarded to my address at the time. So, but now, and I was out of town. My friend kept telling me, "Oh, you have a letter here. You need to respond to." So I'm here. I'm not contesting, but I'm just asking the council if they can please help me to remove this off my it's like my 300 citation fines.
I'm gonna take that as you're gonna contest it, because the council is not gonna make a decision tonight until after we've had the staff report.
Okay.
So you're contesting tonight, staff will put a report together, the next meeting, we'll take it up again.
Okay. So am I gonna have any letter for the notice of the next meeting?
I assume so.
I
We
don't
can give
think we
that out
sent
tonight.
We did not send out a second notice.
Right.
So
September 24th.
this will be
September 24th.
rescheduled for the next city council meeting. Is that fair to say?
September 24th.
In 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
we'll be back.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Good question. Yes, sir.
My name is Thompson Saleh, 6612 Ewing Avenue, Brooklyn Center, 55429.
You have a citation, right? Did you find it? Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, so I'm totally confused. This is my first home 6 months ago that I got in, and I received this information which I have no idea why I got in the first place. And I try to read it. I'm gonna see the fine $125. It says administrative penalty or citation for what? I don't know.
This is your first home?
Yep.
And you just moved into Brooklyn Center?
Yep.
You would have welcomed to Brooklyn Center, but
No, I've been in Brooklyn Center, but I've been in the apartment. But it is
Okay.
the first home to live on
Right.
in my own home.
what I'll say is you're going to contest it, and that's fine, and we'll get a staff report on September 24th. It'll come back. But your questions for tonight, Mr. Anderson's in the back. He should be able to answer all of them for you.
That's for me.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Graves?
what date
do you know the date that you bought your house?
I bought it on the 9th of February, February 9th.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Very good. But I'll still say welcome to Brooklyn Center as well. Anybody else wishing to come forward during the public hearing process? Anybody else wishing to come forward for public hearing on special assessments of administrative fines and citations? Anybody else wishing to come forward for public hearing? Hearing none, seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to close public hearing for special assessments of administrative fines and citations.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item number.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, hold on. Councilmember Graves, I assume you're going to do discussion.
I just wanted to ask that staff let us know if complaints were filed in these particular cases, or if it was, like, how was the issue made aware to staff?
Mr. Mayor, I
That's
would
an
say that typically in the report, it will indicate how the violation came to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
And we do code enforcement for what is a quarter of the city annually.
Yeah, I know.
We do proactive inspections, and we also respond to complaints, but typically in the report, it'll indicate, at least initially, how the complaint came to our attention.
Great, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? And if not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve and certify the special assessments for administrative fines and citations, with the exception that those that have been deferred to September 24th.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 8B, a resolution certifying special assessments for delinquent public utility service accounts to Hennepin County property tax rolls.
Nope, that doesn't look like it.
And Mr. Bogany, if you would please, welcome.
Yeah, as soon as I can find the right one, Mr. Reinhardt, is that it?
Correct.
Will present.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Nate Reinhardt, Finance Director for the city. I have just a short presentation just to give some background on the special assessment process for delinquent utilities. I won't go too far into detail since Mr. Anderson covered the process on the last agenda item. But you should have received updated reports on your desk that reflect all payments through 3 p.m. today. And I have not received any written appeals prior to this meeting. Minnesota state law allows cities to recover costs of certain types of services through a special assessment to the property. The city incurs costs of providing public utilities, typically recovered through user charges. If these user charges remain unpaid, the cost may be assessed to the property. A public hearing is required prior to the certification to the county. To go through the process here, a customer receives a regular utility bill, which would include water, sewer, storm sewer, street light, and recycling. If that utility bill has not been paid as of June 30th, a letter is sent to the customer notifying them the account is past due and the amount will be certified against the property taxes if not paid. Customers are given the opportunity to pay the outstanding bill prior to certification. If the utility bill remains unpaid, a second letter is sent indicating the account will be certified for collection with property taxes following a public hearing. This letter details the process and legal authority for certification. Customers that do not pay their account balances after receipt of this letter are included in the final assessment roll, which is where we're at tonight. This year we have a total of $496,644 in unpaid utility charges. In comparison, last year we had a total of $459,320. This year we have a total unpaid accounts of 677. That compares to 624 last year. So we're seeing about an 8% increase in both the delinquent amount and the delinquent number of accounts. For informational purposes, the city has approximately 8,900 accounts citywide. The next steps is tonight we'll open the public hearing on delinquent public utility accounts. Customers may provide a basis for their appeal to the charges during that public hearing. If needed, the city council may direct staff to investigate further, and a public hearing will be continued on those properties. Staff will then have time to review those cases and provide a report to city council for review.
Any questions for Mr. Bogny or Mr. Reinhardt? Hearing none, seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. We're open for public hearing on delinquent public utility service accounts to the Hennepin County property tax rolls. If you wish to address the council, come forward and use that podium and that microphone and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Walter Chapa, 5338 Logan Avenue, North Brooklyn Center. I'm not gonna blame nobody, I just blame myself, because whenever one bill comes, I will pay next month come unpaid, so it just adds up. But I called today and I spoke with some lady that worked upstairs, and I said that by the end of this month, I'll be make sure I'm all paying full, and whatever needs to be paid, I'll just gonna come in like 2 weeks from now and just pay in full, so I can avoid any other problems. So
Well, here's what I would think, and Mr. Byer, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're contesting it tonight, which will push it to 2 weeks from tonight. So you got 2 weeks in there where you could make payment before it would come back to the council. I assume that's appropriate.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud. Certainly that could be done. It would, no harm, no foul.
Right.
Ultimately, though, it's probably not necessary to delay it. If the council, because what I'm hearing the gentleman say is that he recognizes that it's a legitimate bill and that he plans to pay it. The time frame, Nate, why would you walk out on me like that? The time frame before it gets levied is what?
November something, right?
Is it all the way into November?
It's, yeah.
Typically, special assessments, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
at the end of November.
November. So in fact, he has until November
Yeah.
to get it taken care of.
well,
And it won't then it won't be placed on your taxes.
okay.
So it's up to the council. I mean, but in effect, he's got sufficient time to have it taken care of, and there won't be any additional charges or penalties or interest or taxes, if I'm correct. Am I correct? Why don't you come on, help me out, Nate? I want to make sure that we give the gentleman the correct information. So he says he can pay it this month.
Okay,
but-
so we do have a $30 certification charge, which would have already been added to the account. So once it goes into the certification process, that already adds it. The interest won't be, what is it, November? You have up until November. I'm surprised I don't have it with me here. I think, but it says it on your letter, up until November 27th, I believe, before interest would start accruing. So at this point in time, you would have up until that point in time. You'd actually end up paying, it'd end up going to assessing, so you'd actually pay a different counter than in utilities, but there wouldn't be an additional charge.
Mr. Reinhardt, what was the $30 certification thing?
Once we start the process, we add a $30 certification charge, so it's already on the account at this point in time.
Oh, all right.
So,
You have the next 2 weeks, so you can get it paid, great. Otherwise, what, November 7th, was it? Or November, I guess, the first part of
27th.
November, so.
Oh, well.
October 13th, thank you.
Oh,
Sorry.
October
I was
13th.
Just a few days off. October 13th.
so pay it before
That made a
October 13th.
difference.
Absolutely, I will.
If you pay it before October 13th, there's no additional charges.
Again, so which will be my taxes for next year, it won't be increased then.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That is correct.
Okay.
Very good, thank you for coming in. Anybody else wishing to come forward for public hearing on delinquent public utility service accounts to Hennepin County being put on the property tax rolls? Anybody else wishing to come forward for public hearing? Anybody else wishing to come forward for public hearing? Having asked 3 times, the chair would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries 5-0. The chair would entertain discussion and/or a motion to approve the resolution. I think it's a resolution.
Move approval of the resolution certifying special assessments for delinquent public utility service accounts to the Hennepin County property tax rolls.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries 5-0. It brings us up to item number 9, Planning Commission items. Resolutions approving Planning Commission application number 218014, requesting preliminary and final plat approval and site and building approval for 7256 Unity Avenue North. And Mr. Magany, if you would, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and City Council, this item has been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission, and we're going to have our city planner come forward and present.
Welcome, Ms. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mayor. We were waiting.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about it the whole meeting.
So as mentioned, we have 2 requests tonight. The first is for the site and building plan, and the second is for preliminary and final plat approval. This is the first time we're doing this on our end. Typically, final plat is taken care of through Public Works and the engineering division, but we're trying to streamline that process. So that's why we have them bundled together tonight. So the first request, this is for Unity Place. It's up on the border of Brooklyn Center. As you can see, Brooklyn Park is across the street. The requested approval is for site and building plan. It would be for a 2,600 square foot community or service building, an approximately 550 square foot maintenance garage, and some other related site improvements, and then the requested plat approvals. This site is known as Unity Place, and it is a 112-unit affordable rental townhouse complex, and it is zoned R3, which is multiple family residence. So to give you an idea of the existing conditions, we are specifically looking at what I have identified as the central commons area on Unity Place. So it is located on the very central portion of the site, surrounded by Ponds Drive, which is a private road. The first request for the plat approvals would formally subdivide and consolidate 113 lots contained in the Ponds Plat 6. The resulting subdivision would have 1 lot and then 1 outlot. This would allow for the creation of an outlot along Shingle Creek, which is on the north end of the site, and would separate the floodway portion of the subject property from the portion containing the dwellings. So this request is actually as part of the applicant's intent to apply for HUD financing. This would allow for the overall upgrading of the subject property, including the townhouse units, the construction of the new community building, the maintenance garage, and the site improvements. Additionally, as I mentioned, there's 113 lots. When this plat was originally assembled, it was assembled in a townhouse style as if it were going to be sold as individual units. That's not the case, it's a rental complex. So there is really no need for 113 lots. And the biggest thing is, if you will notice, what we're reviewing tonight is not the entire complex. We are looking at the majority of the units, but the central commons portion is located on a different block, as well as the western portion of the property. So to give you a better idea, if you'll see here with the arrow pointing, that is the floodway portion of the site. As you can see, it cuts down. The oranges area here is where the townhouse units are. So by conducting the subdivision, you'd be separating off this portion into an outlot. For the building, as I mentioned, they would be contemplating the construction of a community building, as well as a maintenance garage. Right now, the complex, if you're aware of it, they have no amenities, really. It's just the dwelling units and a leasing office and a playground. By constructing the community building, they would incorporate a fitness room, a party room for residents, a meeting room, and then relocate their leasing offices, which are currently in another building. They would also construct a new patio, and the playground equipment would be updated and installed. So as you can see on the bottom, here's the layout of the proposed new community building. The fitness room, there would be bathrooms here, a mechanical room, a party room, and then the main entrance in would feature the leasing offices with full sight of the party room, and then the meeting room. So as I mentioned, they're also requesting construction of a maintenance garage. They are currently storing some of their maintenance equipment in some of the tenant garages, which is not ideal. So they're looking to have their own separate space to store any lawn or snow removal equipment, as well as any other equipment they need to do their work. There are no city-mandated requirements for materials for residential uses, but they are intending to use lap or panel siding for both buildings. For the access and the parking, there are no plans to alter Ponds Drive, which is their private road, or Unity Avenue North, which is a city road. The applicant is proposing to install 7 new parking spaces, which would actually bring down an existing deficiency in their parking. They currently are deficient 28 spaces based on a 2 parking space per dwelling unit ratio. So by adding the 7 spaces, they'd come down to 21. Following review of the site and looking specifically at the commons area, there may be some areas where additional parking could be incorporated. So city staff is requesting that they look to see if there are some additional areas they could incorporate. For the lighting, they're proposing to install 12 new light fixtures. They would be LED, they would have cutoff lenses. The only caveat to that is that with the light poles that they're proposing to install, that they ensure that they are shielded. Trash and screening was a big discussion point as part of the submittal. The trash enclosures obviously are to be fully enclosed and screened. They do have existing trash enclosures on the commons area. There are 3 actually, so they should make sure that that is sufficient for their needs with the new buildings if it is approved. There were a number of phone conversations with residents, specifically on 72nd Circle, which is to the south of the property. One of the comments that came up was some dumping that has occurred along the southern property line between the townhouses and the existing chain link fence. So this is Unity Place. You can see with my arrow here, it's highlighted in blue. So the rear of the townhouse is here on Unity Place, and then 72nd Circle, where I received a number of calls, is right here. So there has been some dumping that has occurred, and some of it either lands back here or it ends up over here. So that was a discussion point. Staff noted that the applicant should engage with the residents and educate them about proper disposal, and that the applicant should be proactive in keeping the subject property clear of trash site-wide, but especially along the waterway. And I will follow up on this a little bit more, but the applicant did address one of the residents at the Planning Commission meeting. For landscaping, they did provide a landscape plan. Based on the use, it was assumed that they would need a minimum of 1,167 points for the size of property that they have. The points that city staff received were 960, so it appeared that they were deficient. It appears that some of the property may not have been counted, like the green space areas. It looks like the counting was specific to where the townhouses are and not closer to the waterways. So there may have been some non-counting, but city staff can look at that and see if the numbers change. For staff reviews, as per usual, the assistant city engineer did provide comments and conditions. The project is less than half an acre, so no project review is required by the West Mississippi Shingle Creek Watershed Commission, and an NPDES permit is not required. It was noted that the applicant should try and install BMPs wherever possible. For the fire inspector and the building official, This is a public building and is considered a commercial building for the building code, and therefore it does need to be sprinklered. So that is something that will need to be addressed as part of any approvals. And the applicant will need to obviously ensure compliance with any of the fire code requirements. So a public hearing was published in the Sun Post. Mail notices were sent. As I mentioned, city staff did speak to a number of residents living along 72nd Circle, and one resident who had properties on Unity and the 71st Circle. It was a wide range of comments. It wasn't necessarily one thing. One of the main questions was where the buildings would be located. I think there was a lot of misunderstanding as to where the buildings would be. A lot of people were concerned that it would be in the green space, which would actually be floodplain. So I did speak to residents about that and clarify that it would be on the central commons area and not in the green space. Some wondered if new dwelling units were going to be constructed, how the project was going to be financed, and concerns relating to the construction timeline, and specifically issues with construction on Unity Avenue. A couple residents, as I mentioned, commented on the trash behind the townhouse units. The applicant did address one of the residents at the meeting on the 30th. Per follow-up conversation, the applicant does intend to introduce information to residents on the disposal of trash. They plan to install no dumping signage in multiple languages at key locations around the perimeter of the property. And then thirdly, they're planning to incorporate the management and maintenance provision requests outlined by staff and by the residents to address the trash issues and the dumping and incorporate it into their management agreement. Following commentary from the resident and then from the applicant and representatives of the applicant and questions that were addressed by the commissioners, the Planning Commission did approve the plat request, which would have been the public hearing, 6-0 vote, and the site and building plan request, also as a 6-0. So based on the above noted findings, the Planning Commission does recommend the City Council approve the resolutions regarding the disposition of Planning Commission application 2018-014 for the preliminary and final plat and site and building plan approval. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Bagney or Ms. McIntosh? Hearing none, seeing none. Ms. McIntosh, I assume we open a public hearing?
No, the public hearing was held at Planning Commission.
Oh, at planning and zoning, oh.
Yeah.
True. Discussion.
I think it's nice that they're building that building for the residents.
Good. Anybody care to make a motion?
Oh. Move approval of the resolution approving Planning Commission application 2018-014, requesting preliminary and final plat approval and site and building plan approval for 7256 Unity Avenue North.
Second.
Very good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor signify. No, I do have a question now that I think about it. You mentioned HUD would be involved
Yes.
in some of the financing.
Yes.
Is the intent to keep the properties affordable out of the whole
Yes.
process with HUD support?
Yes, and
Okay.
I do have the applicant here from Community Housing Development Corporation if you want a little bit more of a yes.
I
So,
think yes will be sufficient.
okay.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0, brings us up to item number 10, council consideration items, 10A. Did we vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
The plat approval, you just approved.
Okay.
Yep.
Did I ask for nays?
That I don't know. There were none.
There were none. Oh, yeah, it was unanimous. Okay, good. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. Item number 10, council consideration items, resolution temporarily suspending the issuance of new licenses for sale of tobacco or tobacco-related products. And Mr. Bagan, if you would, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, we are recommending approval of the resolution which would suspend the issuance of any new licenses for the sale of tobacco or tobacco-related products. As you may recall, the item of modifying the city's ordinances related to the sale of tobacco, specifically the sale of tobacco to individuals under the age of 21. Had a lengthy conversation at our last city council meeting. The proposed amendments to the tobacco licenses, the current tobacco license ordinance, is under review by the staff and will be coming to the city council at a future meeting for your consideration. Staff has determined that over the last several months, it appears that the pressure from ordinances adopted in other communities may have in fact increased interest in the establishment of new tobacco license locations in the city of Brooklyn Center. Since the proposed ordinance that you'll be seeing in a few weeks puts a cap on the number of licensed locations, we believe that it would be prudent for the city council to adopt the resolution which would suspend that activity until after you have considered and adopted any modifications to the tobacco ordinance. And that's why this item is before you.
Any questions for Mr. Bogany? Any observations? Hearing none, seeing none, the chair would entertain
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Gilchrist, sorry.
I apologize for jumping in. Just reflective of the conversation that happened during the work session on this with the license application that just was submitted. I was thinking it would probably be in the council's interest to clarify if you're acceptable of those matters of that particular application that came in prior to this evening.
Well, and that's a good point, Mr. Gilchrist, but historically, and in my mind, if that process has already started, they're kind of grandfathered in, and they go through the process. So if we make any changes tonight, it wouldn't affect what they've already started in going through the process. And Mr. Gilchrist is talking about an applicant that came in to apply for a tobacco license this week, which means that they're already in the process of being considered, and we as a council would not be able to not consider their application when it does come forward. And it all boils down to who has notified the city that they wish to be an applicant and they've gotten their paperwork in. We have seen this in many cases in the past as well, where if that process has already started, then anything we do tonight would still allow that process to go forward. Is that kind of what you were getting at, Mr. Gilchrist?
Well, Mr. Mayor, and I do agree with that, particularly in a zoning context. In a licensing context, frankly, I think you have more powers to stop even those that have already come in the door. And so if that's not your intent, what I was thinking, if you indulge me for a second, is perhaps to add a number 4 to this that says the suspension directed by this resolution shall be in effect immediately, but shall not apply to any new applications received prior to the adoption of this resolution. Just so we're clear on that. So if staff continues the process, they're clearly doing so at the agreement of, or permission of the council.
I think that's a very good, valid suggestion, and Chair would entertain a motion to, do we amend, or?
Mr. Mayor, you can just indicate that in the motion to adopt that the resolution include the language written by or read off by the city attorney. And if you'd like, I can read it again, or I can make sure the secretary has it.
You'll be called on to read it here in just a minute.
All right.
The Chair would entertain a motion on the resolution temporarily suspending the issuance of new licenses for sale of tobacco or tobacco-related products with the language that Mr. Gilchrist, our city attorney, has mentioned, regarding an applicant who came in this week.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that.
Second.
Very good. Mr. Gilchrist, if you would please just restate that phrase so we understand what it is and we can get it in the record. So.
I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor. This would be an addition. It would be on number 4 that would read, "The suspension directed by this resolution shall be in effect immediately, comma, but shall not apply to any new applications received prior to the adoption of this resolution," period.
Very good, thank you. Then we have a motion to adopt on the floor. Chair would go to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Brings us up to item number 10B under council consideration items. Resolution approving a type 4 6-month provisional license for 6501 Brooklyn Drive. And as is our process, if there's somebody here that wishes to go through the formal process, we will. If not, the council will make a deliberation on this license request. Anybody wishing to come forward? It's 6501 Brooklyn Drive. Hearing none, seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the resolution approving a type 4 6-month provisional liquor license for 6501 Brooklyn Drive. That's you guys.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that. Move approval of the 6-month provisional rental license for 6501 Brooklyn Drive, subject to the mitigation plan and all applicable ordinances.
Second.
Very good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Brings us up to item number 11, council reports, and Councilmember Ryan, if you'd like to lead us out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I would just like to make one announcement. That is that I will not be able to attend the fourth of our 4 neighborhood area meetings in the parks that is scheduled for tomorrow evening, 6 to 7:30 p.m. because I will be participating in the League of Women Voters and North Hennepin Chamber of Commerce Forum that is scheduled at the same time, which will be held here at the council chambers. That's all I had to report.
Any, first of all, thank you, Councilmember Ryan. Councilmember Lawrence Anderson, your report.
Thank you. It's been a quiet couple weeks, but I have had the pleasure of attending our farmers market a couple different times, right outside Sun Foods and Walgreens. Highly recommend it. I would get there earlier in the day as opposed to later. I was there Saturday at like 5 o'clock, and then I forgot that I needed more tomatoes, so I went back Sunday about 2, and it was bustling, and it was absolutely fabulous. So highly recommend it. I will be at the West Palmer Lake neighborhood meeting tomorrow night, and is it 6 or 6:30?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6:30 is the forum.
Correct. So I will make a brief appearance, and then I want to come back here and attend the forum. So I will be there for 30, 40 minutes. So come on out and enjoy a wonderful evening and a great meal. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Graves?
On August 29th, I attended the open house at Brooklyn Middle School, of which my daughter started 6th grade. So now I have a middle schooler, a high schooler, and an elementary school. On the 30th, I attended the open house at Birch Grove Elementary School. The only reason the high school is not listed is because they rescheduled it, and then I wasn't able to make it for the day they rescheduled. Also on the 30th, I attended with my daughters the Youth Motivation Festival that was put on by the Brooklands Youth Council at Central Park in Brooklyn Park. There was a good turnout. I actually met our community engagement people, staff members, which I feel like we should have like a for real introduction, and I want to connect them to like the liaisons at the park and to the liaison to the MAC Council, and just create like a work group for community engagement, across departments. But that's another thing. Anyway, so I was excited to see them out engaging and interacting with the community and the young people. On September 7th, I went and met with William English, who's part of a Black Business Association, and we discussed small business development and equity and diversity within city contracts. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Graves. Councilmember Butler?
Let's see, August 31st to the 3rd, I was on vacation, so I didn't really attend anything between the last council meeting and this one, but I do plan to attend the West Palmer Lake area meeting tomorrow, and then I also plan to attend the Top Golf event on the 12th. That
Very
is my
good.
report.
Thank you. For the mayor's report, August 28th, I was at the Rotary Lunch. August 31st, I met with Dave Kaiser, CCX, Mayor Shep Harris from Golden Valley, and I swapped times for the mayor's minutes. So Dave Kaiser and I did that on August 31st. On September 7th, Mr. Bogany and I and the chiefs, police, fire, Dr. Edwards, and I'm probably going to miss somebody, but met with the Liberian delegation from Liberia. It was kind of a hurry-up thing. In fact, we didn't know where we were meeting until that afternoon. But the Liberian delegation consisted of the deputy speaker of the House from Liberia, 2 representatives, one from Nimba and one from Bong counties, and other associated staff from the consulate that they have in Brooklyn Park that they've established. So, interesting meeting, a long discussion, and good to see, I think, at the whole thing. On September 7th as well, it was a Friday, I went to the KCC church service, which is the Kenyan organization, ethnic organization in our city. They originally wanted me to come in on Saturday for their main celebration of 20 years providing service in Brooklyn Center. I could not, so they allowed us to come on Friday night and address the congregation then. Although on Saturday, September 8th, I did have a window where I could make it to the Hmong Community Alliance Church and make sure to buy some of the Hmong egg rolls. So they are delicious, let me tell you. So, in that, will conclude my report as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Graves?
I'm just curious about your meeting with the Liberian consulate members. Was there any women present?
Yes, in fact, there is one individual who is charged with reaching out to youth and community, and she spoke very eloquently for a long period of time, and she is a part of the consulate. I apologize, I don't recall what her name was. But there was not a woman member in the representatives or the deputy speaker, so.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I think I'm correct in that the folks locally who were present, at least some of them were representing the OLM, Organization of Liberians in Minnesota.
Yes, good point.
Not the consulate per se.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, the president of the organization is the female.
Oh, good. Okay.
That is true. Thank you, Mr. Bogany. We had a long discussion on sister city relationship and some of those issues. And as you may know, there's been an election in Liberia. There's a new president, a new vice president, and new members, new staff members. So we were getting together just to say howdy to start with and to start that process.
Cool.
So, having said that,
Move to adjourn?
thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned. Generally, at this point in time, we take a short break.